Thomas was like, he was so good at like getting everyone to be so inspired by like his drive. And like he's like, I don't know, I don't know what they said down there, but like I just remember like they just got so hyped when Thomas was like getting them ready for
Yeah.
a game. It was so cool to see. And they adored him, they loved him. But he was so good at like being intentional with each person that was on his team, and I think that also comes with leadership. Like you're not just another guy on the team, like you're a brother. And like he was invested in every aspect of their life. He knew every single one of their, like, what their siblings are up to, what their family members were doing, where they're from. Like he went out of his way to really really get to know you as a person. And I think that has so much to do with like why people just fell so in love with him and just like followed everything that he did.
Lexie Lazzaro, welcome to Security Out Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming back on. We had a minor audio issue the first time, but it'll buff out now. We have the perfect headset for this.
Yes, got the gaming headset from my brother. It was just meant to be.
Yeah, man. Tommy was a remarkable human being, remarkable Green Beret athlete, and he touched so many lives. And I think it's amazing that your newfound focus and project is starting a nonprofit that will help give underserved, underprivileged youth the chance to become great like Tommy in the football field. Because as we all know, yes, it's dangerous. Contact and impact sports are dangerous, but there isn't, we've lost the other institutions that were so paramount into developing young men into leaders. I mean, we grew up with scouts, we did, but that's not around as much. But we still have sports, and they are still a viable way for young men to make it out some of the dangerous, most, unfortunate situations. And looking at Tommy's legacy, looking at where it all started, it was very much shaped by football. But before we get started in Tommy's journey, I want to know more about you and your family, how you guys grew up. Talk about that dynamic.
Yeah. So we grew up in a small town in Colorado Springs. We're about 2 years apart. So growing up was very fun. It was, being 2 years apart, we have a lot of similarities. We've got a lot of similar interests. We grew up like out in the forest. So growing up was a lot of like, my dad was, doing his work calls, and he's like, go outside, get outside, go play, so we'd get on our bicycles and like go play with like the neighborhood kids. And, my dad was all about like, you're not doing TV, like play with the dog, be outside, like, you are not going to be lazy kids. My dad coming from like military background, he's just like not about being lazy. If we're watching too much TV, he's like, get your ass outside, go do something.
And he was a ranger, right?
Yeah, he was. They'd lock us out of the house. They'd be like, oh, you can come back when the sun goes down.
Yeah. You can't get away with that these days.
No. That would be child abuse now.
But yeah, it sounds like that was like an early like catalyst for getting involved in sports. And were you as well an athlete growing up?
Yeah, we both were, always in sports. I mean, he was hockey, lacrosse, football, his whole life. And then I did volleyball, gymnastics, cheerleading, a little bit of soccer. That lasted all of 2 minutes, but I liked cheering on the side more than I liked being down in front. Yeah. So we were both heavy in sports. It's kind of, in high school, we went to two different high schools because he went to a high school that would feed him into a better football system, and I was just there to go to school, So
an academic focus.
Yeah, not quite, but I was just trying to get through.
Was he more of like the scholastic and athlete, and you were just kind of like, I'm gonna party?
A little bit. But the funny thing is, he did not study. He's just the smartest kid in the room. And it was like, I would get so mad because like I would study my ass off. I had tutors. Like I was like struggling, especially through like math and science. And then like kid would barely, like, he would go take naps in the principal's office like during
No way.
Yes, he was that guy. Like he was the class clown, and then somehow made it to be like the principal's favorite. It would drive me nuts because I was like, how are you how are you getting by doing this? Like, how are you like acing every class? You don't even show up. You're sleeping in the principal's office and like you don't even study. And then I'm over here like working my ass off. And I was like, you know what? I'm a C student. It's fine. We're okay with it. And yeah, no, he crushed it in school and didn't even try. I was always so jealous of that. He's just a smart kid, like so smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was good at school and good at the sports. I was just good at sports.
Yeah, one of the things that's very interesting is when we were talking earlier, the ability to give him the proper mentorship,
Mm-hmm.
as we all know, like the dream of being an elite athlete is not easy. Like you can have a dream, but you got to put purpose, you got to put actionable steps. And one thing that Tommy did have is he did have mentors. He did have people that were brought into his life, and watching, you know, reflecting back on that, like how big was that for him, and watching him like be able to have access. And obviously, like, was that like looking back, is that the catalyst that gave you the idea of like, wow, okay, like he had access to the right mentorship, the right coaches, like not everybody gets that.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember like, God, we started him so young in like football training and whatnot. Like they were in what is that little league? Like the God,
The
I
Pop
cannot.
Warner.
Pop Warner, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was in Pop Warner, and like my dad would like run training camps like in our front yard with like all of his teammates, and I was always like, oh, I can try. Like I'm gonna go run with the boys, and like I was trying to like keep up with them, but like I remember him being in like little league, and we were putting him through trainings, and like my dad was running them at the time, and then when he got into high school and was like, Dad, I'm serious about this. Like I want to go NFL. I want to make it big. My dad was like, all right. So, we started getting him into like strength and conditioning coaching. Then we got him mentors. Cedric Bonner was like a huge influence in my brother's life. Probably one of his favorite people to this day. He just drilled it into my brother how important it is to like be a leader on the football team. Like he was like, it's more important to be a leader than be the best guy, like physically the best guy out there. And I think that just flipped something in his brain, and it just like kind of geared him in this direction of like, yeah, I can be number one, but I could also like lead the team. And I think he saw leadership as like a more important skill, and then he turned that skill into also being like the best one on the field.
Yeah.
you know
When at what age did you see that flip switch? Because everybody, a young man, and I think that's like the ultimate like, failure every young man experiences at some point. Maybe a lot of them, maybe don't grow up and figure that out, but we tend to think that we have to be the absolute best at everything. We have to out perform and do better than everybody in the world, and then we don't realize that leadership and that factor is like really important. Like a lot of us don't realize it. Some of us stumble upon it in the Q course trying to become a Green Beret, and they understand the importance of like, okay, I don't have to be the guy that is amazing at everything, but I need to be the leader that can bring out the best in everybody.
hmm
When did you see that flip in his mentality growing up?
I think for my dad might have like a different perspective, like being from, father figure. But I think
Yeah.
like for me as a sister, I kind of saw it like in his later years in high school.
Mm.
The older he was getting, the more mature he was getting, obviously. And I think it would be like his junior, senior year when it got really important. They were on their way to state championship, and he was like, if we're gonna make it all the way, like it's on my back. He was the quarterback.
Mm.
He from like little league, like he was always the quarterback, and like not being quarterback was not an option. So like he had
Yeah.
to lead the team. He had to put the team on his back, and he had to like inspire his entire team to push all the way. Funny little bet with my dad. And if he won the state championship, and so that helped him along the way. But at the same time, like it was the satisfaction of getting his team where they wanted to go. And
Yeah.
that was winning state championship.
Gosh, that's a lot of people don't believe it, but there are a lot of parallels to serving, to being a leader in the military, and a lot of the experiences we have as kids playing sports. There really is, like,
Yeah.
whether you want to admit it or not, like learning how to coalesce around a leader, like it's important. The one guy that everybody understands, like, this is the guy, this is our team sergeant. Like that happens. Like not in every team. Sometimes you have leaders that nobody wants to rally around. You follow orders,
hmm
but when you have a true leader, you follow them, and you
Yeah.
understand like no matter what comes down the line, no matter what happens, I'm sticking and I'm following through, and that's an important trait to have. And sadly, as much as we think that it could be coached and developed in everybody, a big percentage of that comes down. I don't know. You're born with it. I've been with so many people. I've met so many guys and worked and been a part of some amazing teams. And then you get a leader that doesn't know what it means to be a true leader, doesn't know how to coalesce a team around them, doesn't know how to give or how to, be inspiring. And it's just like, man, like, we'll follow your orders, but you fucking suck.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Thomas was like, he was so good at like getting everyone to be so inspired by like his drive. And like, he's like, I don't know, I don't know what they said down there, but like, I just remember like they just got so hyped when Thomas was like getting them ready for a game. It was so cool to see. And they adored him. They loved him. And he was so good at like being intentional with each person that was on his team, and I think that also comes with leadership, like you're not just another guy on the team, like you're a brother. And like he was invested in every aspect of their life. He knew, every single one of their, like what their siblings are up to, what their family members were doing, where they're from, like he went out of his way to really, really get to know you as a person. And I think that has so much to do with like why people just fell so in love with him and just like followed everything that he did.
Yeah. And going in that high school, senior year in high school, understanding that like, okay, like I have to play not only for myself. I think a lot of young athletes have that fear that especially at quarterback, like if I don't play at my absolute best, somebody's not going to get the ability to shine. Somebody's not going to get the ability to get looks. Like, how did that pressure materialize into like getting those offers to go to college, and how did he handle that? That's something that a lot of us don't have an insight to. Like for a vast majority of us, like there's only very few, great athletes to make it into like becoming a Green Beret. It's just one of those things that's like, it's important to explore and understand, especially for his story.
Yeah. I think he just really put his head down and he was like so serious about it. So he took all of his training seriously. He took all of his camps seriously. Like it was football before anything. It was strength training before anything. It was, practicing in the front yard, doing his footwork, everything that he needed to do to become like the best leader and the best football player on the team. That became like the most important thing for him, going into that year. It was kind of crunch time, like, and I would say like he had big dreams, he wanted D1, like he wanted to be picked up by a huge school. And as he's going through, the year and he wasn't getting like as many like interests as he was hoping to get, it was just making him work harder and harder.
Yeah.
He's not the kid to take no for an answer. He was the kid to say, all right, fuck it, let's go harder.
Yeah. Ultimately he ended up going to Michigan, right?
He went to Dodge City for a semester. So he got picked up by, I think it's a D3 school, Dodge City. So he got picked up there. He played one semester with them, and then Central Michigan picked him up.
Yeah. And what was it like watching him go through that process? And at any point, like, it seems like you were polar opposites of student athlete and then just, I hate school, I just want to get through this. At any point, watching him and reflecting on his journey where you're like, fuck, like I need to be more like my brother.
Oh,
I need to
100%, 1000%. Like I like the jealousy factor of like, God, he's just crushing life. Like he's doing so good at life. And I was like, I'm just living in Scottsdale, like doing a thing. He was, God, he was just so smart. And so like school again, he got into college and school again was just so easy for him. He was like, I'm going to go work out. And I was like, don't you have class right now? He's like, yeah, but I got to go work out. Like I gotta do this. And then he's like, I aced my test. Like I'm fine. Like I'm getting good grades, he was so good at that. And, he like when he went into CMU, he was so serious about his school. He was really serious about, getting his bachelor and at one point looked at getting into his master's, and then he was like, like bachelor's is good enough. He was solid with it. He was like, I don't really need to do any more school. But yeah, no, watching him develop as like a man going through college was like so cool. And then, you know, I'm living in Scottsdale, and I got to watch his games like from like the local bar that we would go to. They'd put his games up on TV. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, so it's like I'm like watching my brother play football on TV. Like it was the coolest thing. And then, you know, I get to talk to him after, and he was like, that was just the fucking coolest thing ever. Like that was so much fun. I can't believe I get to play for this many people. Like, and then he would walk into school the next day and just like crush it there too.
Yeah. In your path, where did you go for school?
I didn't. You know, I moved out to Texas for about a year and a half, took some community college classes, just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I always wanted to go into fashion, but I didn't want to go to like New York or LA. So I was kind
Mm,
of like, I don't know what I want to do. And then I've always been more of a worker. You know, I wanted to get into
yeah.
business one way or another. So I just kind of was like, I don't want to blow money on school that's not really going to do anything for me. I'd rather like go work for someone who knows what they're doing and just learn straight from them. So about a year and a half after like taking some courses in community college, I was like, I just like, it's a waste for me.
Complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can imagine my
I love
family's
it.
over here like D1 athlete, you know, he's doing great in school. I'm over here quitting school, moving to Scottsdale.
Guys, this is great. I'm happy for him. He's crushing life.
He
I've
was
heard
doing so good.
Scottsdale's pretty fun.
Yes.
We got to pause and focus on your journey for a little bit. Why Scottsdale? I've been there. It's a hell of a party town, but man, I would imagine it's pretty. It can be daunting for somebody young. Like that's a man. That's a fiery pit, man.
You know, when I found Scottsdale 9 years ago, it wasn't what it is today. Um, it has turned into a big party place, but you know, when I
Yeah.
found Scottsdale, it was just this beautiful city full of like life and adventure, and it was something new. I've got a little bit of gypsy soul. I'm like, I just can't stay in one place for too long. And I'd gone down there with a friend, and she was like, oh, you know, we've got a house we need to check on with the family, you should drive down. I spent 48 hours there. I was like, I love this place. Went back to Denver. I was like, I'm quitting in January when my lease is up in what was it, July. I was like, I quit in July. Like, I'm moving to Scottsdale. And my boss was like, are you insane? I was like, probably, but I don't know. So I moved down there with like my best friend from high school. We got a 3-bedroom, put some ads on Craigslist to like fill the third bedroom. Found my other best friend through Craigslist. And then, just kind of found a job out there and just like was having the greatest time.
And what'd you get into?
Oh gosh, I got into so many random things before I really like got back into fashion. I was working at Nordstrom for a little bit, and then I
Okay.
started working for a PPO company. Hated that, not that kind of girl. And then I started working for Aetna, selling medical insurance for a while. Also
Oh, damn.
hated that. And you know, fitness has been a huge part of my life growing up. You know, especially like coming from military family. My dad's like, you know, sports military, like it's just fitness has just always been in there. So I ended up working for my personal trainer, worked for him for about 3.5 years. And then I have found myself in Dallas now.
Nice. And what are you doing in Dallas right now?
Right now I am working like the wholesale side of retail for a women's apparel company. So just kind of starting to get into that. So staying in the fashion world, staying on the wholesale side of it now, learning that side of the business, which is really exciting for me. So
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. We don't talk enough about like, I obviously waited till I was done in the military to go to school. And I'm so proud of that. Very happy that I found my education later on in life because, you know, for all of my undergrad, I had already read a vast majority of the coursework, you know, while I was on my way out of the military. Because I was excited about learning this stuff. I was trying to diagnose and figure shit out what I was going through.
Yeah.
Which is like, you don't have that passion, you don't have that drive for a lot of us when you're young, dude. And when you figure out what when you're able to explore what you're actually excited about, like just what you talked about, just literally just listening to you describe your life is nothing but like somebody following their heart, following their intuition and figuring things out in such a passionate way of like, okay, fuck it. Like I know this normal way of life is not for me. I'm willing to just fucking go to Scottsdale and look for look for a roommate on Craigslist and hope they don't fucking kill me.
My
That's
mom
an
was like, "Are
adventure.
you insane?" I was like, "Probably. I don't know."
Meanwhile, Tommy's living it up, fucking crush in school playing football. And you're truly having a Green Beret approach to it. You're like, man, I may not speak the language, but I'm just gonna get out here and just enjoy it.
Yeah. For me, like, I think there's too much emphasis on like putting 18-year-olds in charge of their life like so
Yeah.
early, like they're like, you turn 18 and it's like, go figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life and spend $100,000 trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, my brother always knew, like, he was always going to try and go NFL. He was always going to play football, and then like when he's going through that, like, he just knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. I was like, I don't know. I like weddings and I like events and I like fashion and I like this girly shit. And I just like I don't know what I want to do with my life,
Yeah.
And so spending $100,000 trying to figure it out just made no sense to me. So I was like,
Yeah.
let me just get in the industry, figure out if I like it. If I don't, jump to the next one, and that's kind of like how I've done it. And I've been successful. I've made some really great connections. I have learned so much from so many people. And I think that's like a path that more people should be taking.
Absolutely. Be willing to bet on yourself. Be willing to push away from the shore and the safety of, the common path.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just dream for 1 second, if you're listening and you're younger and you're stuck in that dead end job, like push away.
Mm-hmm.
Be willing to bet on yourself. Not a lot of people are willing to go into discomfort to give themselves the ability to figure out what they want to do. Yes, you'll have to, not go out and eat every single night. Maybe you'll have to move into a more, fiscally responsible apartment for a while, but
working
fuck it.
4 jobs with 4 roommates at one point. Like there was 4 of us living in my 3-bedroom apartment at one point with 4 dogs and 4 girls, and I'm working 4 jobs and I'm like, losing my mind, but I was like, this is how I make it. Like this is how I get what I want,
I
Clever.
fucking get that. I completely, oh my God. Yeah, that's life. More people need to talk about that.
Yeah.
And what was, a lot of people, the dynamic between brothers and sisters is difficult, right? You either, like, I'm fortunate, I'm still pretty close to my older sister, but we never had that dynamic of like, well, you should be doing this. This is the right path to do. Did you ever feel, was that ever like, did Tommy ever, did he give you grace for following your own path, or was it always, or is it different where it's like, man, you should be doing this?
No, oh my God, he supported everything that I did.
Hell yeah.
He was like, God, he was literally my biggest supporter. When we were younger, like we're 2 years apart, we're going to different schools. Like when he's, on the football field Friday nights, so am I, cheering on the sidelines at different schools, so we spent a lot of time apart when we were, in that like teenage range. And then when I left, he was kind of like, where'd you go? Like, you're gone now, and we got so much closer after I was gone. And like when I moved to Arizona, he was, living in Michigan. Absolutely. Like, beautiful state, love it in the summertime, but like in the wintertime, like it is freaking cold there. And so he was jumping down to Scottsdale every chance he got. And so Scottsdale will always have like so much of my heart, because that is where he and I just became like this. Like we were best friends, like we were inseparable. Nice. Our relationship grew to like this brother sister relationship that I you don't see a lot of siblings have.
Yeah.
We speak the same language. Like we're literally the exact same person in different bodies. We're just like I said, like he was a party boy, I'm a party girl. Like we love to have fun, but like when it's time to like get to work, like we both put our head down and like we get our shit done, and like we both want to be number one, so like anything I did, I was like, hey, I'm quitting school. He was like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know. He was like, well, fucking figure it out and then go quit school. And I'm like, all right, deal. So I did that, and then when I was like, I'm gonna quit my corporate job and like go work for this, personal trainer dude and like see how that goes. He was like, fucking do it. Like, that's awesome. He was like, just make sure you're doing okay. He was like, as long as he was like, are you mentally okay? Always. I was like, always our thing. Like, you're mentally good, then go do it, So
that's the type of support we need.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, mom and dad don't support what you're doing. He was like, go do it. Do it anyways. Do it in spite of them. They don't like it. You should really do it now.
Yeah. See, that's we all need that sort of like
Yeah.
backing and cheering on from the people we love and care about. When his time was coming to an end in sports, like how did he handle it, and what was that conversation like?
It was tough. I think he really struggled with it. I think he was getting to a point with football where he was realizing that like the NFL wasn't going to be picking him up. And he would have to go, just go and try out. And, I think after so many years of trying and trying and trying, and, he had a lot of failures in football. Like, I'll be real. He wasn't number one all the time, but he was always the leader, like I said. And I
Hmm.
think he just kind of got to a point where he was like, I think I did my run with football, and I think it's time to like go out into the real world, see what the real world's about. And he got there,
Yeah.
and he was like, "This is not for me."
And what did he get into once he got out of
Oh,
college and
what was he
playing?
doing? He was doing like recruiting sales or something, like
Oof.
sitting at a desk on a computer all day long, reporting to numbers to someone, and just there was zero excitement. There was zero
Yeah.
drive. There was no team. He's like, sales guy doing his own thing. He had moved back to Denver, living with his best friend who we grew up with. And he's not the guy to sit behind a computer and just like work at a desk all day.
Yeah.
So he'd been doing a lot of research for a while before he called me, and he was like, "Don't kill me, but I think I'm gonna go into the army." I was like, "I'm gonna kill you. Like, what are you talking about?" I was like, "What's wrong with your job?" And he's like, "I'm so fucking bored." He's like, "You can't do this. Like, I miss the team." He was like, "I need to do more with my life." He was like, "I'm just like wasting away, not doing anything important. Like, this is a stupid job. I'm doing stupid sales. Like, I need to do something important."
Yeah.
Um, and I was like devastated, obviously. It's scary being on like the family side of like someone going into the military, especially knowing my brother, who's the guy that wants to kick all the doors in and be the first one through,
Yeah.
and like the second he said that, like I knew like we're not just doing any old army job. Like I knew he was going to be, he wanted to go to combat, he wanted to get deployed, he wanted to be out in front. And that's why it was so devastating and scary, because I was like, as as his sister, as his best friend, I'm like, the possibility of losing you is like so real. And it was a chance he was willing to take, which was like the scariest part, but also like so proud of him for wanting to do something so good and like fight for our country and like really like do something meaningful with his life.
Yeah. And I would imagine the conversation with the parents probably was filled with a lot of questions as to why now.
Hmm. Actually, why now made the most sense, because it was 2020 COVID. Then he's like locked in his
Yeah.
house, locked at his computer. Our biggest thing was like, do you really know what you're getting into? And he was like, I have done so much research. He was like, I know I don't want to go officer. I know I want to enlist. Like, I know I want to go special forces. I know what path I want to take when I get there, and I know how I need to go about it. So when he said that to my dad was like, "Oh shit. Like you're very serious about this." And my dad was a Ranger. He was
Hmm.
military. He served 13 years before he got out. And I think my brother wanted to follow in his footsteps. I mean, his bedroom when he was little was like Army GI Joe, whatever. Like it was always in him. He was always playing with guns,
Yeah.
airsoft guns, paintball guns, all that stuff. So it made sense when he said it, but we were all like, "Shit, like you're serious about this."
Yeah.
So yeah, 2020 he enlisted, and that's where his journey started with the Green Beret.
Yeah. Did he have any interactions with like an actual Green Beret, or was it all just sitting down and just going through and doing his deep dive research on the internet?
He spoke with, and I don't remember who these people were, but he spoke with multiple guys that were officers enlisted. I don't know specifically like what their role was, but he
Hmm.
spoke with, and I know he went and like sat down and had like an interview or like a chat with like someone who like you go to talk to for the military. I don't know how that works,
Yeah.
but
There's a
it
guy.
probably
He just
sounds,
knows some
I
people.
probably sound so blonde right now saying that, but
Tommy, there's a guy around the corner. He wants to talk to you about serving.
he's got all the insights. Yeah. So, you know, I just remember him saying like, Lex, I've done my research. Like I've talked to a lot of guys. He was like, I've talked to
Yeah.
dad's friends. Like, and he was, you know, he went around my dad at first, just to like get the opinions of people who were not family.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my dad's got his one opinion. He's got his side, you know, he served 13 years. Like he has so much insight, but my brother just wanted like outside insight,
Yeah.
you know? So, I think he talked with maybe 5 or 6 people, including the military or the army, before he was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, going through basic training is nothing. Going all the prep, so he signed up for 18X, correct? He went through the 18X pipeline. So he went straight in. He didn't serve in a conventional army first,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's not a lot that, you know, families, they don't really understand, like the first few months before you make it to brag, it's just, there's not much excitement. Like there's just like, okay, like, you go into basic training, you go to airborne school, but like when you finally sign in and you're finally going in the SWIC, like that's when you especially now, like now that I'm old as shit and I'm starting to see, you know, young men that I helped along the way, when they finally get to SWIC, that's like when they, like their eyes open up and they're like, oh fuck, like this is it, I'm finally here.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that shift and his excitement when he finally was like, oh fuck, I'm about to start this, it's going to be a journey, but I'm about to start this thing?
Oh my God. Yes. He was so excited. You know, when he enlisted, like he enlisted over COVID, and it was 9 months. It was 9 long ass months of him sitting around doing absolutely nothing, waiting on the army to just send them through basic. Like he
Yeah.
waited so long. So like he really like had to like the drive to get there, because he was like, I did
Yeah.
not wait 9 months to not get what I wanted out of this. You know, so when he finally, like you said, like when you finally get to that point, we're like, oh my God, this is it. Like we made it, like we're doing this.
Yeah.
He was so excited. I remember like when they go through basic, I think it's basic, when
Yeah.
you don't have your phone, you can't talk to anyone, you just
Yeah.
write letters. You know, we were writing letters back and forth to each other. You know, I'd like taking pictures of like us and the family and like my friends that he was like really good friends with, and like sending him photos of like stuff that we were up to. And every single one of his letters was just like, okay, we're doing this, and like this is so cool, and like this happened, and like I just can't believe that I'm doing this right now. He was like, this fucking sucks so bad, but it's actually like so cool at the same time.
Yep, that's on par.
Yeah. Yeah. So like reading his letters like was so inspiring. Like every time he would like, I get another one, I just remember just like sitting there and I was like, I'm so proud of you. Like you could have bailed so many times. You had so many ways to get out. You could have just been like, this is too hard. But he sat
Yeah.
there and he was like, I'm so glad I waited. I'm so glad I did this. I'm loving life. Like this is so cool. He was like, I have never been through so much shit ever, and love it at the same time and hate it, you know. So
Yeah.
he was really excited, you know.
Yeah. What was it like finally, like seeing that graduation, having him don the Green Beret for the first time? The people don't understand what that graduation, what that ceremony is like. It is one of the single greatest graduations you will ever experience. And just being in the audience, like, let alone being on that stage, like that moment is so brief and so like, it's like you've worked over a year of your life to get that handshake, to get that beret handed to you. It goes by so fast, but every time you reflect back and see those photos, it's like, holy shit, like it takes you right back. What was it like seeing him finally walk across that stage?
Oh my God, proudest moment of me, my parents, like watching him. You know, they're very stoic when they're walking,
Yeah.
but my brother
Yeah.
has like, if anyone who knows my brother, he's got these big, huge, I called him little dinosaur eyes, but he's got these huge eyes, and I could just see it in his eyes. He was beaming. He was just wanted to come out of his skin. He was so excited that he finally made it. He was so proud of what he had done. And seeing the light in his eyes with like how proud he was of like what he accomplished was just, I was like, all right, it's fine that you're doing this. You know, it gave me that peace of mind that like this is where you need to be, you know.
Yeah.
Watching him walk across that stage after the God, what was years of listening to the torture that he had to go through to learn everything that he had to learn to get to that point. And, you know, not everyone makes it through the
Yeah.
Q course, and not everyone makes it through, what is that? It's the prisoner of war camp that you guys do, SEER
SEER.
camp. Oh my God.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of guys, you know, who don't make it, who don't, like, it's really, really daunting on like your mental state. It's really daunting on you physically. You know, I watched him gain and lose so much weight. You know, he went from 140 pounds or 240 pounds to 210 pounds way too fast.
Yeah.
So the what they have to endure, and then you get to that point and you did cross that line and you made it to the finish line and you got that. It's the coolest thing to watch all of those guys, you know. There was hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And at the end,
It's
when they graduated, you know, you come over, you talk to the family. So many of his fellow, you know, Army guys were coming over to me and my family. Your son got me through. Your son got me through. Your son is the reason I held on as long as I did. And that was like probably even a more proud moment that I'm like, damn, you were really the strength for like all these other guys and you carried them through. And
Yep.
that was just the guy that my brother was.
That's a true leader. People
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the dynamic. The course is long, and it's whether you're a Bravo, 18 Echo, 18 Charlie, everybody, and Delta, certainly our Deltas, everybody faces their trials and tribulations. And more often than not, it can just be a small, simple interaction with another friend or even a student that you're not even close with, but they provide some sort of moral support, whether it's a look, whether it's an encouraging remark, like, hey, keep going. Sometimes you get your dick knocked in the dirt. You fail something, you stumble, you don't meet a gate, and you have to redo something. And for a lot of people, they just give up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's great guys out there. I had them in my class where all you needed was, you know, for example, Teddy's British accent telling you to stop being a cunt. Or one of your friends like Jason Jolly that just told you to man up and keep going. Those individuals are always in the course. They're always there. They're always around,
Yeah.
even for the smallest little moments of bright interaction. And we have to remember, like, that's what makes individuals great leaders, when they can sense that somebody needs that extra push, that little sense of like, hey, you got this, keep going, you're not out of this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand that Tommy had developed that and had, you know, fully developed the art of leadership growing up as a kid and in college, and then was actually just masterfully like able to implement that in his time as a Green Beret. Because like I said before, like when we were talking and engaging, when somebody reaches through online and is able to communicate just how amazing somebody was and how important this new mission that their family's involved in, like, I don't take that lightly. And when his friend reached out, you could tell like this person meant something to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was not like, hey, I need you to help support this nonprofit. Like, no, my brother. It's not even talked through in the sense of a past sense where we've lost him. It's talking through like, he's still with me and we need to champion his cause.
Mm-hmm.
Losing Tommy at such an early age. And I mean, he just started living life. He just became a Green Beret. He was just starting to like really like flourish in his new profession. That's heartbreaking. That's a tough thing to deal with for everybody, to include teammates and family. But how are you moving forward? How are you dealing with it today? Having, you know, this amazing giant new focal point being the foundation you started for him. How are you grappling this loss?
You know, I literally have to take it day by day. It's really hard. Oh, sorry. When I say he was my best friend, he was literally my person, you know? people come in and out of your lives. You have your parents and everyone, but like your sibling is that person that like you have until the end,
Yeah.
and to not have him here is so painful. So creating this foundation is literally the thing that I'm like kind of clinging to. It's keeping his legacy alive. And he has a son on the way. They found out the day before he passed.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so, creating a foundation where we are showing the world who my brother was, and doing that is so important to me because I want this little boy that he is about to have to know who his dad was. And I want this kid to grow up knowing that like he would have had the best father in the world. And I cling to everything that I can to make sure that this little boy knows what kind of guy his dad was. And this foundation is something that like he would have done for one of his brothers.
Yeah.
He would have wanted to start something to keep the legacy alive for one of his brothers. And he loved helping people. He loved being like the light in someone else's life. And if that's something that I can do with this foundation for, someone underprivileged, and give them the opportunities that my brother was able to, receive from my family, those are the things that I'm like clinging to right now that help me like get through each day.
Yeah. No, Lexie, exploring your journey and also Tommy's, like, I can't help but realize just how in just perfect, life unfolds. You didn't take a standard approach to life, and you went about your life after, growing up as a kid, and instead of going to college, you started going into industry. You started figuring out, you started making relationships, making friendships, like understanding pivotal aspects of what it means to build a business, what it means to be successful as an entrepreneur, whether you realize it or not. Like, everything about your journey has shaped you to be able to do this. Like, reflect on that. I think that you're missing that aspect of it. I think that God gave you a specific path in life, and everything is coming into fruition right now the way it's meant to be. Like, it's hard to see it as a gift right now. It's hard to see the beauty in this, but I am telling you, like, after hearing the way you approached life after high school, everything happened for a reason. You already know what it takes to put together a foundation. It's network, especially a nonprofit, where 90% of the time it's just meeting people, getting support, getting backing, getting financial support, and throwing events, like raising money. And the other aspect, it's intimately tied to what made Tommy arguably the best version of himself, which was mentorship, coaching, giving opportunities, and being able to provide this world with more men like Tommy, being able to give that to communities. That's a gift that never dies. But yeah, I think looking at your journey, looking at Tommy's journey, nothing's guaranteed in life. And that's one thing that is hard for us to understand when we deal with loss. Like, we can't bring Tommy back. We can't ask God to just press rewind. But what we can do is understand that everything happens for a reason, and be grateful for the gift that we have for his legacy. Because now he has a boy on the way.
Yeah.
And that little guy is going to grow up with so many stories of how amazing his father was and the impact that he had. Because let me tell you, there's nothing greater than a Red Empire family. And his teammates, his friends, everybody that was touched by him is going to be able to meet this young man when he gets of age and tell him amazing stories of how remarkable his father was, especially with this foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap it up, tell us about this foundation. What's coming up? We got a golf tournament coming up here pretty soon that I'm stoked about. We just started running the ads on all of our podcasts. So
Yay.
Please tell us about the upcoming golf tournament.
So the golf tournament will be June 28th, so 2 weekends from now, up in Wyoming, Michigan. We chose to do the first fundraising event up in Michigan just because, that's where his football career like really took off. He's got a huge community up in Michigan, and it just kind of felt like the perfect place to have our first foundation like fundraising event. So like I said, it'll be up in Wyoming, Michigan at the Pines Golf Course. Kickoff is going to be 2:30, so we'll be doing like cocktails, drinks, and stuff before. It's going to be a party. Like, it's going to be so much fun. My brother is, like I said, he was a party boy. He did not let a beer get left behind. So this will be a very fun. I think it's a foursome, like a scramble. But yeah, it's going to be a very fun event. We're super excited. There's going to be raffle prizes, couple different ways you can get involved. You can do, cart sponsorship, dinner sponsorships. If you want to, join us, we've got about 7 spots left in the tournament, so still trying to get those seats filled for the golf tournament. But yeah, we're super excited. We're trying to raise about $30,000. If we can do that, we can help about 5 kids, which is like the goal. I don't know if we really touched on like the basis of the foundation, but the mission for the foundation is to target underprivileged high school football athletes who are just kind of in a situation where they're not able to get the mentorship, the college scholarship, eyes on them. They're not able to, pay for the skills training, the camps, all that stuff. So my goal is to target those kids and put them through a camp, put them through, get them a mentor, find out, what it is they need to get the skill level that they need to, be picked up by college scholarships. So if we can raise about 30,000, we can help 5 kids. And that is my goal for, our first year as the foundation, is to help at least 5 kids just kind of get to a closer place of reaching their dreams, get them out of a bad situation. Life is tough. We're not always, dealt a great hand. And if I can do something to help somebody like these kids, kind of just get into a better position for life, like that's our main goal, building more of my brother, more Tommies.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to remember too that mentorship and access to these programs, like, it's not just about making great NFL players, making great college football players. Like, that's great. That's the end result. We want a lot of them to be able to reach their dreams, but we're helping make great men. We're helping put more Tommies out to the world. And that's a gift that keeps on giving, because we can make great men, which will ultimately go out to their local communities, making their communities better, making their areas better, being able to become force multipliers, helping mentor and coach other kids. And that's what we need. We're starting to lose that, and we need to bring that back. It needs to be more popular. And one of the greatest ways that we can mentor and coach kids is through sports. And if we can give access to those underprivileged areas and get them into the proper schools where they can thrive, they can reach their goals, like, what better mission than that? So please, I'm asking all of you to pause right now, go to the episode description, or just scan this QR code right there, and you will be taken to the website for the first annual golf tournament for the Tommy Lazzaro Foundation. Please support them. There's still opportunities to become a sponsor, so jump on them. It's important that we dive into this and help support it. Look, I know you have $100, $200 to spare. If you're in the military, I know what you make. I know what you spend your money on. Stop subscribing to OnlyFans and start promoting and supporting these nonprofits. Damn it. You can afford it. I've seen what you make. Lexie, thank you so much for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you. I'm excited to see this thing grow and get bigger. I can't wait for you to have an event in Florida. Destin, it's what better fitting place to have a golf tournament. We've got a couple of golf courses out there. There's some good ones.
Yes.
There's no, it's not a Pinehurst, but I think Destin area is growing and booming. And maybe we can, do a golf tournament and a beach hangout, a Crab Island. That'd be perfect. That's an idea.
That's an idea right there. He would absolutely love. Yes. We'll definitely be doing more throughout the year, more fundraising events. We'll definitely be doing something in Florida. So TBD on that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody tuning in, thank you guys for being here and supporting. I appreciate you all so very much. We are kicking ass. And if you're following us on Instagram, go ahead and give us a like, share, a follow on there too. Really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.